Yesterday I watched it on YouTube. Now I know it's a fact.
G'day everyone, it's me, the anti-theocrat, and yet again I'm hoping to get through a video. I don't know when I'm going to get the next one up, how much time I'm going to find to do them. My eldest is returning home for Christmas, and my youngest will be around home a lot more after next week. So, yeah, we'll see how we go. It could be before school next year, could be when we manage to find time to do another video, and I'm not happy with that. I'm going to do my best. Hey, there you go. I was only talking to Shah this morning. Her AE board she gave me. There you go. I love my AE board. I don't know if, yeah, of course I've told everyone about my AE board before. Hey Shah, I'm plugging your AE board again. As you can see, this is a video taken in Germany, in China. Taken in China. These crappy concrete roads that run through all the villages. I went out to the local town, and this is me riding back towards the village where my wife's from. So yeah, this skateboard knocks up 36 odd kilometres an hour in at top speed, and it dragged me up and over the hills and rises along this valley's edge very nicely. It's a beautiful board. Love my board. It's got a 39-inch deck on the AE. It's a long one compared to a lot of others. Most of the others on the market, I gather, are 36-inch. I like the 40. I'm a 6 foot tall man. I find the 40 gives me a good span of board. Anyway, stop plugging the board, you bastard. I'm not here for commercial operations, and I'm not being paid for this plug. So, let's get on to the... What is the JLGBTQ+? That's what journalistic excellence worldwide is asking us. So why are people putting the J in LBGTQ now? Journalists are under attack now more than at any point in history and need our protection. Without journalism, would you have learned about the 1969 Stonewall riots? You're welcome. I'm pretty sure that I really don't give a flying fuck about the Stonewall riots. That shit did not happen here in Australia, so, you know. But if you have to focus on a localised event from 1969, maybe you're not doing your job overly well. Get your ass into gear. Hong Kong's up in flames at the moment. How about you head over to Hong Kong and let us know about those riots? Really, or the peaceful protests, whichever. I don't care, but go over and do your fucking job. You haven't done it since 1969. Of course, I did leave a comment for these lovely people, and I didn't even focus on that point. I wrote, is J for wankers? The suggestion is this is a new sexuality. I'm guessing you're all independently or mutually tossing one another off. Because LBGT Q plus whatever in the fuck they've added to it these days is meant to be about sexuality, isn't it? It's meant to be a rights movement or whatever it is these days, a bullshit movement I think these days, about people's sexualities and being able to express and have legal rights around their, you know, in their sexualities, not being criminalised. When you add J to it, are you insisting that journalism is a sexuality? Are you in fact wankers? And that brings us to where we're meant to be working today. The ABC here in Australia. We'll just head back over here. Yeah, our Chinese villages. This bit's been on video before, I think. I'm pretty sure I've been here. Oh, this is on my desktop. What am I doing? I'll get rid of that. Righto. Let's have a look at what we've got. We're going to do one article, because I did think I would do two, but this one is going to take me a while to get through. This year was marked by global unrest, and 2020 is likely to be worse. Was it? Was it really? I think I just learned from journalistic excellence worldwide that nothing's happened since 1969. But apparently, this year was marked by global unrest, and 2020 is likely to be worse. And who are we blaming? Yay! We're blaming Donald Trump. President Trump has retreated from America's international role as a stabilizing force. He actually hasn't. I would look. His talks with North Korea. We haven't seen North Korea in the news for a while now, have we? Yet they were always in the news under Obama. Who else hasn't been in the news recently since Donald Trump stopped policing the world? Well, policing it the militaristic way. I'd say the Americans are still waving their hand, waving the big fist. But look, I'm an Australian. I don't want the American president policing the world for me. I do not vote for the American president to police the world for me. I vote my political leaders to make sure I'm safe in my nation. And I'm at a point now where places like the Middle East, you could rain guns and ammunition down on it for me, thank you. Just rain it down until last man standing, because I'm fucking over that retarded shit. Really, if you can't get your act together, stop fucking making it my business. Stop making it our business. Stop making it Donald Trump's business. I think we just rain guns and ammunition down on you until it's last man standing. And I don't mean that in any mean way. I mean get your fucking acts into gear, sort your shit out, stop being asses. Because you're all being asses. All my life there's been tension in the Middle East. The UN have sent people over who got really close to peace negotiations apparently, and fucking nothing. You just started shooting at each other again. I don't care. I don't care anymore. Sort out your own shit. Why is it the Americans' job to police you? That's my position on this. As far as I'm concerned, Donald Trump is the best American president in my voting life, which is more than 30 years. He is the first president that I can point to and say he didn't bring us into a new war front or cause some Cold War stalemate somewhere that left us right on the verge of war. In the last 30 odd years, first president that I can say didn't do that to my nation. My nation has been committed to wars as an ally of the Americans for decades. And not just wars, but tensions, you fucking name it. We've been dragged along by American presidents. American presidents are fucked with our international trade. This gentleman on my screen at the moment has actually not gone after any of our trade partners. I have not once in the last, 3 years he gets or something? In his term, I have not once heard the Australian news say the American government are looking at breaking open Australia's trade, grain trade to the Middle East or anything. No, nothing. As far as I'm concerned, he looks like a good president from Australia's standpoint. And I'd rather he stayed that way. I don't mind him waving his fist, as I don't mind our government waving their fist, but I don't need him to be the police force. No, then again, who else we got? The UN? Those fuckers can go and burn down. This year may as well go down as the most disrupted year in global politics since the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the subsequent implosion of the former Soviet Union. This is just put up as fact. I do not remember the global politics being all that unstable because of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Yes, the Soviet Union changed almost overnight. There was change, and it came quite swiftly, and the Western world stayed stable. In fact, we saw Russia as a project. Russia needed to be propped up. Russia and the Soviet states needed to be propped up. They needed to be supported and helped through their economic problems as their economy changed. And I was alive through all this. I remember all this shit. We really didn't want to see the Soviet bloc just crash. It wouldn't be good for us. It wouldn't be good for them. And we didn't hate the Russians because they were Soviet. We didn't hate any of the nations in the Soviet bloc because they were communist. We hated the communists for being communist. The people in those nations did not deserve to starve and die because communism collapsed across that region. On the whole, I remember the world being a reasonably stable place. I remember less stable times than that just because of economic crashes. I mean, how bad did the housing sector collapse in the US? And that affected prices here and worldwide. We had a massive bailout of the banking sectors. We've had major disruptions. But you go back to 1989 for some reason and pick out that event. It really wasn't that horrendous. We got through it reasonably nicely. There was some economic instability in the ex-Soviet bloc, but we all wished them well and tried to support them through it. Anyway. However, the likelihood is that in 2020 it will be worse and bloodier. You have no evidence of any of this. You're going to just throw this out as your perspective. Your insane perspective. Conditions that spawned global unrest on every continent in 2019 are unlikely to recede. Rather, they are likely to worsen in the face of a slowing global economy and little sign of causes of disaffection being addressed. So you're upset that your protest movement is not being given everything it demands. That's essentially what that is. And for the record, I live in a island nation, a continent. And this continent has not suffered unrest. Every continent did not suffer unrest. I would point out that the African continent suffered no more unrest than usual. The South American one, if there's unrest, it's because Venezuela is crashing. Yes, there are insane protests about insane shit over there too. But none of that's overly excessive or particularly interesting. Which fucking continent do you think all this unrest happening? The USA, North America. What fucking unrest? Your projection that your protest movement that might have got, maybe you got 3,000 to 10,000 people in the street is fuck all. For a day, you got up and you marched. For half a dozen days, half a dozen people glued themselves to roads. None of that fucking shit matters. Next year is going to be another year with more insane people doing insane shit, and it still won't matter. Most of us don't give a flying fuck about you crazy people. Washington as disruptor. Woohoo! That's because we're blaming this man. I don't know why the ABC, an Australian news provider, the government news provider, the one my taxes fund, thinks that Washington is all there is to politics. But I tell you what, they jump down this fucking hole a lot. In a word, the world is in a mess, made more threatening by the retreat of the Trump administration from America's traditional role as a stabilizing force. If anything, Washington is a disruptor in its abandonment of international agreements. These include the Paris Agreement on climate change and the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. Previously, the Trans-Pacific Partnership aimed at liberalising Asia-Pacific trade. The US has also withdrawn from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action that froze Iran's nuclear ambitions. Look, if the Americans have their own plans for Iran's nuclear ambitions, that's fine. But I'm of a mind that nuclear is just going to be a global thing one day. You have the nuclear corporations who build reactors no longer being able to do business the way they did 50, 60 years ago in the Western world, and they're looking for new places to build reactors, and they are offering them to African nations. African nations are not recognised for their political stability long term. When they have that technology, who do you think they will sell it to? Everybody. Nuclear is inevitable. If we keep using it, everyone will have it. And even if we don't keep using it, there may be nations who will still want it and call for it because it has a military application. Do you understand? Now, maybe the US has its own plan there, and maybe they don't think joining other people in their plan is the best route to go. It's not that fucking important. The Paris Agreement on climate, now that's where you're upset, aren't you? Because that's where you think all this instability is coming from. Oh, we're not acting fast and hard enough. Fuck you. Look, you want to destroy an economy. You force it to act in certain ways and do certain things to meet your global agenda. If you want your economy to be strong, you want it to be independent, you're quite happy for it to meet some, reduction of pollutants, then you do not join an agreement with other countries that could bring your nation down, make it less competitive against other nations. Which other nations haven't signed this agreement? Has China signed this agreement? Do you think there is any economic competition between the USA and China? Why would you force one of those economies to agree to this but not the other? I am fully with the US standing outside of these agreements. I'm fully with Australia standing outside of these agreements. If these agreements put us at disadvantage. The Comprehensive Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnerships. Yes, you've really focused on Donald Trump with this one, but I would be happy if our nation wasn't particularly heavily involved in these things. Donald Trump was elected as a president for the USA, representing the USA and its people. He was not elected to offer business opportunities to other nations making product for the USA. His work in the USA has actually kept the economy not only strong and stable, but it has grown. Not joining these partnerships, not being part of them, has not been a negative thing for his nation, who he represents, in the way the ABC is meant to represent my nation, not nag about the US president all the time, and the Australian government should be looking out for my interests as well as a majority part of this nation, because the poor voting people, the middle to lower middle class people of this nation, we are the majority, and we need our government to have our back, not the fucking Indonesians or anyone else out there. And I've already covered, I don't want the US to be our police force. I do not want them to be out there doing these things. If we have to, Send the fucking useless UN and their blue hats back in and pretend you're doing something. But don't make it the business of unelected US leaders. Unelected as in most nations in the world do not vote in the USA. And this stupid call by some of the people on the lefties in the US to let non-citizens vote in the US, that's just fucking crazy. You people are insane. As I tell you, if I voted in the US, I'd vote for the worst fucking option for you lot in your economy. Because I want my economy to be the strongest. I do. I want my nation to be the strongest in the world. Australia. All fucking 10,000 of us. Okay, it's probably a few more of us than that. but going with that number, 10,000 Australians, we fucking rule the world and you all suck. Okay, Washington... look, I'm not even going to read this shit. Universal Trade... See? You brought it up. There is a trade conflict between the US and China. And this should be a thing. And you're making this just the US are the bad guys. What the fuck do you think China are? Seriously. China has people who are regarded as uber rich. By US standards, they are so wealthy, it's ridiculous. They control the economy. They control the value of the yuan by holding on to millions of billions, trillions of yuan and keeping it out of the economy. Fucking hell. Yes, there's a trade war between US and China, and yes, it does stretch the sinew of global order. But why is that the US's problem? The US's problem is making sure the US remains strong. And I'm telling you now, a choice between the US and China as the strong partner, I want the US, not China. And I married a Chinese national in China. I've lived in China. I've stayed in China quite a lot. I have in-laws and friends in China. But the Chinese government is not something I want rolled out across the world. I'm all for the protests in Hong Kong. All for it. I understand their want for independence. Involving the evolving US-China technology war. Look, I understand that China are advancing technologically. They really are. Very nice to see them doing it. But at the same time, I just don't see this as an issue, as a real problem. The Western world is more than capable of being creative and develop new technologies. The world is in worse shape than during the GFC, the global financial crisis of 2007-8 was a period of intense uncertainty as the global financial system buckled. But for the most part, the distress was confined to governments, boardrooms and offices of international lending institutions. No, it fucking wasn't, you fucking prat. People lost their houses. People, real fucking living, breathing, generally middle to lower class individuals lost their homes. You fucking twat. But why do you think the world is worse off than the global financial crisis? This is pure invention. Since Donald Trump's election, the American economy has held strong and stayed strong. It has even grown. Jobs are up in minority communities and all sorts of wonderful things are going on that you should be rather proud of. But no, apparently the world is in worse shape than the global financial crisis. I'm recording this. I actually have Sargon of Akkad's live coverage of the UK election running as this is going. It's sitting on my desk on my phone running. And it looks like the Tories are going to win. They're going to romp it home. And I have absolutely no fucking problem with that. But because again, it's a government that seems intent on looking after its own people, and I have no issue with that at all. In fact, I'm quite happy to say that I have been moving towards Australia becoming a republic, and I can actually see hope for us staying in the Commonwealth because of this election. Getting back to the point, however, this election, the results aren't even in yet. They're still talking about the post-polling. And in the post-polling, it looks like they've romped it in, and the pound has already increased in value. The thing that has been keeping the world unstable as an economic powerhouse, many of the powerhouses like the US and the UK, is this fucking wishy-washy politics that's been going on for so long, and I'll be glad when we're out of it. I'll be glad when fucking social justice politics drops dead, because then we can get back onto economics and real social politics, instead of all this fucking I want to be a man-child bloody genitalia stripped crap that we get all the time now, that's supposed to be so fucking intensely important. Fuck off. Yet clowns like this one. Oh, I used to have some respect for this man, and it has been diminishing. Where are we? Oh, God. Sorry, I should have had this better set up. Oh, don't tell me I've left it sitting around somewhere else. Ah, here we go. This Dr. Karl Kruszenitsky. He's been a science educator in this country for a long time and done a good job of bringing awareness of science to people, but he has also gone down the rabbit hole of pseudoscience a few times, so he's not the very best voice we could possibly have, but he does a damn good job. Then he swings in on this, and it tells me that economics is not his forte. In 2010, it took 383 billionaires to have the same combined wealth as the poorest 3.5 billion on Earth. In 2017, it was 8 billionaires, all white, all male. There is no trickle down. It's all been sucked up to the billionaires, which is just plain fucking ignorant. Trickle-down economics doesn't mean that 8 billionaires are just handing out their money free to people. These people make money. They are becoming the top people in the world because they invest their money in businesses, which use that money to invest in other businesses, that invest in products, that invest in manufacturing, that invest in the shares that these people buy. Is their investment in the future of business and industry. That's where the trickle down is. It's not the taxation, although the taxation wouldn't hurt, because if you tax their income, then they have to find ways to offset it, which means investing more. And I'm betting, as with Australia, the Americans have the same system where investments can be offset against your tax. So these people would be saving something. Now, I used to have the opinion that we should cap these people's wealth. But in all seriousness, I have spent time in China. I have lived in China. I have relatives in China. I have seen the way socialism kept people poor, and I have seen the growth since they have broken from it and implemented the new economic experiment across the nation that has spread. We call it capitalism in the West. That's where China has gone. It is now a communist government overseeing a capitalist economy. And I have seen where that wealth improved their nation. And they are uber rich people in China holding on to money, keeping that economy down. But the billionaires of the West, they tend to invest their money. And that money helps us grow, helps our businesses develop, helps us remain strong economically. It's never about giving away free money. It's never about taxing these people to death. You have to allow them to invest that money and grow it. Because when they do that, they have a reason to continue to do so. When they can't invest their wealth, then they stop. And so does everything the money was being put into. They safeguard their money. They don't have to safeguard their money while they can invest it, and it is going to be coming back with return. Take away a person. Communism is a thing that takes away a person's drive, because it says you are going to get paid this much regardless how much you work. And you know that everyone is going to work as slow as the slowest person on the chain. I've done things like tomato picking, and I was a gun picker on the machine, which meant I was one of the two fastest pickers on the machine. There were two of us, we were the gun pickers. And we slowed down. As the season went on, we slowed down. We were getting nagged because we weren't picking as clean as we used to. And the reason we didn't is there was one guy on our machine who would get paid the same money as we did and strip out almost no tomatoes off his machine, off his line. And the next time you went through, he made sure he didn't end up with the same line. So you would end up stripping out not only all the tomatoes he didn't pick, but all the overripe tomatoes he'd left on that were rotting, which meant you were wearing rotten tomatoes and shit that he should have been picking off the vine before they got that bad. So you work slower to try and encourage the boss to get him to work faster. Or just because you can't be fucking bothered. Why should you? You're getting the same money he's getting. Why should you work any harder than he does? This is communism for you. This is what happens when you stop wealthy people investing their money. Economic ignorance. And look, I know our system has... I have to say, I know our system is not perfect, but what system is? I am a big fan of socioeconomics. I love the topic. I originally named my YouTube channel Socioeconomics as shit, and it was a bit of a bag out on me for loving the topic so much. Where are we? The GFC did not fuel widespread global unrest. You know, it did. It did. You're talking about how it just affected big business, and I said, little people lost their houses. They've ended up in long-term debt over mortgages and things that they're stuck with. They had to walk away from their properties. In 2019, the story has shifted dramatically. Mass protests over the skewed benefit of globalism, accompanied by faltering confidence in a democratic model that challenging the assumptions of the West. Fucking, what a load of shit. Local grievances are fueling protests against establishment and order. Lebanon, none of that fucking shit matters. It's just regular day-to-day traffic. The only new thing in there is your climate change shit, and that's a few radicals going out and protesting. Most of us don't give a fuck. And you're not disrupting our economies or our political systems all that much. Actually, I would say maybe you are, because suddenly you've got people voting for stupid things like climate change. When you've got people voting for stupid things are going to happen. Strong economies matter. Strong economies drive your ability to do something about climate change. Consumer demand is where you want to change things. You want to fucking change the world, change consumer demand. When we don't want things, people don't make things. And if you stop people making things here, but people still want things, somebody else somewhere else with less in the way of environmental controls is going to take over that production. And then you'll have all the shipping and all the other crap on the way added to that. Now, I just found out something I didn't know. I've been involved in climate change stuff before, right? 15 years ago, I was discussing climate change. I'm over it. I don't want to talk about that shit anymore. I've passed by 2 deadlines for turnarounds, just so everyone knows. 8 years ago was the final deadline given to me 15 years ago for the turnaround. After that, the CO2 would just take off and we'd be doomed. That was fucking 8 years ago. You're still using the same figures now too, by the way. 3 and 7 years are the predictions now. 3 and 7 years were the predictions back then. Get some new fucking messages, will ya? You're gonna fucking sell shit, sell it with a new message. In any case, look, I just don't know. There's more of this fucking economic shit, and I just don't give a fuck. It's your lack of understanding that's the problem here, not us. It's the fact that you've got a few socialist activists out marching, and you've got a few other people worked up about the product, but they don't realise that you're fucking socialists. This is a big problem, you know. It is a big problem. There are people truly concerned about the environment because you've got them worked up. And what they fucking don't know is that you're socialists. They don't realise that when you say environmental justice, that what you mean is fucking feminist theory, socialist feminist theory. Inequality and anger. This is more of the same shit. It really is some of the same shit. This is blaming the people who have for the people who don't have poverty, gang crime, drug trafficking. All these fucking things have existed for a long time. And crime statistics in most of the Western world, at least, are down across the board. Shit, forensic science pretty much crushed crime, right? You can be busted for most things in the world now on forensic evidence. Rape was something that in my younger years happened in parks at night. Now, that's almost non-existent. Right, a woman got killed that way recently, and everyone's up in arms about it. But you almost never hear of that anymore. It was very common in my youth, because forensic science means it's harder to escape the law. That did more than all your fucking activism. Latin America, Bolivia, Haiti, you know, these places are places that have had tensions before. None of this is fucking new. Mass protests against President Emmanuel Macron's attempts to address the country's economic he tried to put fucking oil prices up through the roof. Bloody hell. That's where the yellow coat started. So let's get past all this fucking economic ignorance, shall we? Climate unrest. Across the globe, unrest over climate change is a common denominator and likely to become more, not less. I'm sorry, it's become less for me, and I am promoting the principle of it being less because, as I have noted before, I've passed 2 deadlines. This fucking radical activism is bullshit. Get on with the real science. Prove your fucking point. Don't keep fucking scaring people with bullshit lies. I want to actually open a couple of other things down here about this one, because I'll get the fuck off that. Righto, right, where are we? This one. This is a Skeptics channel, an Australian one. The last one I think I'm part of, because most of the skeptics don't have any fucking idea how to skeptic anymore. And I don't think these people do, or at least there's a vocal minority, a vocal group that don't. You can't agree with the anthropogenic climate change is real and deny the science behind the safe use of glyphosate and GM products. You can't. So, obviously, this needed my addressing it. And some other people also, they went on and addressed the glyphosate argument, but nobody picked up this. Why do I need to agree with climate change? I thought this was skepticism, not apply my rulism. I think the very nature of skepticism should allow all forms of rational skepticism, not just yours or mine. Now, somebody picked up on my use of the word rational to say,
skepticism is about evidence.
Look, I don't give a fuck that I use the wrong word, okay? I just don't. My point is, there is room for being skeptical of everything, including climate change. And the very premise at the start of this, that we agree with anthropogenic climate change, says I'm not allowed to think that that's wrong. And that's before we get to the fact that I must agree with point 1 and therefore must agree with point 2. No, just go and fuck yourselves. I'm sick of this crap, alright? I'm sick of this crap. I found this while I was looking for stuff. The Al Gore global warming climate change game. Climate change denier, you stupid right-wing racist. Right? And everything else after that is a pay me. Floods caused by global warming, pay me. Dust bowl caused by climate change, pay me. Yes, everything is due to global warming and climate change and is a payout. And this is exactly how I find activism today. It's just fucking, nobody's got an idea what they're talking about. Nobody has any idea what the fucking counterpoints are. I had someone actually bring up biblical counterpoints to me the other day. Biblical counterpoint, the biblical counterpoint that only God can change the climate. I haven't seen that argument for 10 fucking years. How behind are you on what's going on? I then, later in this discussion that I was having with these bloody skeptics, I pointed out that there was room for people to be skeptical. And I put up a video by a physicist whose specialty is solar radiation and climate or something. I don't know that much about the guy. I've known him for a long time. I have heard the skepticism of his perspective. But I sat down and listened to him the other day, and he pointed out where, and these are things I know about the pro case as well, the number of people pushing false narratives and bad science, and you're not allowed to refute any of this shit. But I put his video up discussing these things and immediately got shot down that he was a oil industry, cretin and all this fucking crap. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, where's the skepticism? Did any of you look up anything he said? Did you give it any thought or time? One guy posted me fucking web links to someone else who'd refuted him. I do not rely on other people to refute these fucking things. I will go and find my own sources, thank you. It's how I've always done it. I might look up the refutations to give me a shortcut to something, but I do not rely on other people to tell me what I'm supposed to think. And this is how I find global climate bullshit these days. None of these fucking protesters have got a clue. They've all got the same fucking rhetoric. I've heard 6 months, 3 years, and 7 years till a turning point. Well, guess what? 15 years ago, I was told 3 years and 7 years, and we passed them both. Fuck off. I got bagged on by these so-called skeptics because they tried to say I was a climate denier. And I, at no point, have said that. I haven't said that to you here. I've told you I have issues with the arguments, and I have issues with the arguments on both sides. I haven't told you my position. I've just told you that I am rational about how I look at the positions that are available. But no, these so-called skeptics, I got called a denier, and because I didn't like fucking little Greta, and someone dug up a comment I'd made about little Greta, I was suddenly fucking not worth talking to. The last comment was, we don't have to talk to this account. These sorts of accounts are just here to troll us. So I then had I've had my tattoo applied, the one that says the account, because that's what I am now. I'm just a set of fucking letters tattooed up my arm, and they're fucking strolling me down to the gas chamber for not even having wrong think, but for thinking that there might be reason for people to be skeptical. There might be some room for skepticism. I don't want to talk about this shit either, because yes, you fucking socialists are winding everybody up. There's proof of that shit. The Greens. 3 months ago today, former leader John Hewson and the Parliament to climate emergency. Yes. My comment to this push for a climate emergency declaration is this simple. Screw in the red bulb. What use would declaring an emergency on the climate do exactly? Do we send out the climate fighters? I know, send out Extinction Rebellion. They can do some performance art and glue themselves to the climate while screeching about their mental ills at the sky, in the hope that it doesn't fall. Because that's how I see the activists. That's how I see this push for the government to screw in the red light bulb. And I had someone bring up this really wise thing. He said, "You're an idiot." That was the counterpoint. That was the counterpoint to my saying this is just the government screwing in the red fucking light bulb. Multi-billion-dollar light bulb too, probably. That's what they'll want spent. Point is, the person then put forward, do you have a solution then? I said, why do you want mine? I'm an idiot. Don't you have a solution? I then spelt out in a very long fucking essay form everything that I've been saying here about needing strength of economy, about poor people don't think about abstract thoughts when they don't have the money to feed themselves or shelter themselves, that all of these things have to be taken into effect, and you cannot just simply shut down our economy and say we're going to fix the world. Not only that, consumer demand means just somebody else will pick up the demand and they'll do the polluting for us. Unless you're going to send the Yanks out to police the entire fucking world. Grow the fuck up. Seriously, this is ridiculous. And then, I thought it was in this one, but yeah, it is the fires, right? It's trying to push the fires as why we're having such a terrible time with climate change. Look, there are a number of factors involved in this whole thing, of which I have plenty of pages up the top here, right? This is meant to be the worst fire season we've ever had. It's early. We've had years of drought. We have underbrush that hasn't been allowed to be cleared with burning off and so forth for a very long time. This has been growing as a problem. The right wing, everyone has been tagged as a right-wing pundit if they say, yes, but green policies meant we haven't been able to burn out underbrush and so forth. This is fucking true. This is just true. Getting fire permits in this country has gotten near impossible. I did farm at one point in my life. And if you want to burn off around your fence lines or what have you, it's not easy. As it is, it's something we didn't do on the farm, but everyone else did, and it wasn't an easy thing to get to do. And yes, these things all mean higher risk, especially when you're having, drought years. We've been in drought for 10 odd years or more. And I live in the big dry bit. I know how dry it is. But this is meant to be our fucking, it doesn't matter how many times you load these bloody screens to have them ready, they will reset themselves. It's not even the page I was after, it's this one. Yes, this is meant to be our worst fire year ever. It's earlier than normal. Then we had a cold spell and the fires receded a bit, and there's still a bit of burning, but, you know, this was in the 1970s. This was in the 1980s. This is now. So this, even just on this short time scale, all right, this is not the worst. It is bad, but it is not the worst. And it is exacerbated by something that came up in this article. Extreme weather conditions due to the deep drought are likely to continue over the next few months and beyond. It is the drought. It is largely drought. And whether that is global climate change driven or not, I'm not to say. But drought is not uncommon in this country, and we are in an extended period of drought. What we'll have is a couple of years where it will cool off and break, and then we'll be back to drought again. That's just the way our nation works. And I'm not saying I haven't seen the climate change in my lifetime. I have. I used to live in Darwin in the tropics. I could set my watch by the rain when it would hit me riding my push bike to work and home again. I knew exactly where I was going to get hit by the rain. Over the years, the rain almost dried up over the wet season, and it's starting to return again. It's patchier than it used to be, but it is starting to return again. This year we're in for a less cyclone year, and therefore we're in for a slightly drier year. You know, all these things have an impact. So whether it's global change or global climate change or not, I'm not saying, but these fires are not driven purely by global climate change, which is part of why the police investigate Sydney blaze. Because, one, New South Wales police vow to hunt down arsonists. Right, that one doesn't say what I'm after, but you'll get this. Don't worry. Hang on, we'll get rid of this green shit out the front. Why have that up? Right. New South Wales police vow to hunt down arsonists. Revealed several bushfires deliberately lit during statewide total fire ban. Australian bushfire fighters struggle to contain Hawkesbury blaze as catastrophic conditions forecast in WA. But down here... No, it's watching. No. I'm going to move on from that one because I think I've lost where I was in that one. There's another one of these. Police arrest man accused of starting bushfires. A 20-year-old man. Teenager arrested over grass fires in southwest Sydney. 2 boys arrested, 15 and 16. 16-year-old taken in for questioning over bushfires as 4th person found dead. Man charged over southern New South Wales spot fires. 33-year-old was seen yesterday lighting fires. Police nab a alleged arsonist while rescuing a paraglider north of Wollongong. Do we get a description? 20-year-old man fanning flames. It might be the first one. At least 3 possible arson attacks being investigated after catastrophic day in New South Wales. At least 3 possible arson, yeah, anyway. You're getting the point, aren't you? Where's climate to blame for this? Okay, some of it is climate. The extent of it might be climate. But the lighting of it may not be. I get so Sick of hearing everything tagged as climate. All right, where is he? Fucked if I know. Yeah, anyway. Everything gets tagged as climate now. And yes, we're in a dry spell, but we've had dry spells before. This is not the worst fire year of all time. Yes, more houses have burned down. And houses burning down is used as the measure. Why are more houses getting burned down? Well, I can tell you, I lived in some of these fire areas. I lived in the South Queensland border ranges, near the New South Wales border. That area has been part of the fire areas. The roads through there have been closed. When I lived there, I had a next door neighbour and us, and then it was a good 2 or 3 kilometres down the road before there was anyone else. Now, even the 5-acre block that we were on, in the middle of this fucking mountain range, has 2 houses on it. The whole place has been built in. You're no longer burning 1 acre with 1 house on it. You're burning 1 acre with 3 houses on it. When you count by the number of houses burned, yes, it looks terrible. Get your facts clear. Mum lashes out after boy accused of starting bushfires. Well, did he or didn't he? In any case, destroyed 17 homes and damaged more than 60 others. He wasn't the only one. The police that 8 out of 10 deliberately fires were started by juveniles. 8 out of 10 fires were started by juveniles. This is from a range of news sources. Last time I heard, 36 people had been arrested for lighting fires. I cannot find that figure anywhere. Nobody seems to be interested in reporting it. I don't have all fucking day to look for it. So, knowing the people who I got that information from, it would have come up on one of their news services, and they told me that 36 people had been arrested for lighting fires. This is the smoke. Pretty impressive. In any case, I just get sick to death of this fucking lazy journalism. This gets put up as, why the world is so fucking horrendously terrible at the moment, when I don't remember in my lifetime probably a time that was ever more peaceful. Our crime statistics are down. We're not at war with someone at the moment. We're generally... people are getting torn off trains for these stupid fucking protests. Torn off trains, having their phones thrown away. These people are... We're not accepting insane people. Next year, if 2020 is more, there's more unrest, it'll be because people like me get up in fucking arms about the wankers. This is journalism for you today. This is my ABC, my taxpayer-funded ABC. This is a J in LBGTQ, the wankers. J is for wankers. I've been the anti-theocrat. I've had enough of this. I've got another ABC article I was going to cover in this, but I've already gone an hour just talking about this one fucking article. May your gods remain fictional. I'll see you in the next one.